We are now live on Facebook and just a second. Yeah, and on YouTube. Okay. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. A very warm welcome to yet another session of Weekend with Wisdom. This is Nitin Sridhar, Chief Curator of Advaita Academy, which we have now renamed as Indica Moksha. And today we have a very special guest, Vedanta teacher, former IPS officer who has been associated with us for many years since the inception of Advaita Academy. I am very happy to welcome Sri Dr. Aravinda Ravji. Thank you, sir, for making time to come on our session. And today's topic is very interesting, and I'm personally looking forward to the talk. And this will be actually as a part of three different Weekend with Wisdoms we will be doing. The topic of today is Pursuit of Dharma and Artha as per Bhartrihari's Niti-Shatakam. And Bhartrihari has written three different texts, three Shatakams actually, Shatakatrayam. And one is on the aspect of Kama Purushartha, one is on Dharma Artha Purushartha, and the last one is on Moksha Purushartha. And today's session will be on Artha Dharma Purushartha, on that is Niti-Shatakam, and on which Dr. Aravinda Ravji will be shedding the light. And we will be also doing on Sringara-Shatakam and the final one, Vairagya-Shatakam, in the coming weeks as well. So this will be a one of a kind Weekend with Wisdom. It will go on for many weekends in that sense. So just for those who don't know, just a very brief introduction. I'm sure most of you already are very familiar. You might have already seen many of the classes that Dr. Aravinda Rao has been conducting with us for a long time. Sri Aravinda Rao is a retired Director General of Police, Andhra Pradesh. And he has studied Sanskrit under Mahamahopadhyay Padma Shri Dr. Pullela Ramachandrudu. And he studied Vedanta under Swami Tattvavidananda Saraswati ji. And he has authored many books on Hindu philosophy, and especially they are very helpful to students, especially many of them are written specifically for beginners, those who want to begin their journey into Hindu philosophy and Vedanta. With this brief comments, thank you again, sir, for joining for this session. And so now you can please go ahead and start the session.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Thank you, Sri Nitin Sridhar, and good morning, friends. I thank Sri Nitin Sridhar for all the good words he said. And he has given me an opportunity to speak on this Bhartrihari Subhashita-Trisati. I had no opportunity to speak on this Trishati at any point of time earlier. But now that Mr. Sridhar asked me, I felt very happy, because we are associated with Indica Moksha. And I was always thinking that Bhartrihari Subhashita-Trisati is structured in such a way that it is covering all the Purusharthas. Moksha is our highest human goal. Moksha is the Purushartha. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. These are the four Purusharthas. Dharma is righteous conduct, we all know. Righteous behavior, righteous conduct. And how a person has to do Dharma Anusthana in society. So that is what is Dharma. Artha is, in the framework of Dharma, one is supposed to acquire wealth. Artha not necessarily means wealth, but all resources that a human being needs to enjoy. So all that artha, all resources, it may be money, it may be house, it may be something else, it may be a car, it may be some gadgets, etc. All these artha. Then again, kama. Kama is particularly the man-woman relationship in particular, because that is what distracts people. That is what is the cause of failure for not many people. So kama is one point where even the great sages like Vishwamitra, Parashara, etc., they had all fallen for it. So kama is another purushartha, and kama in the framework of dharma only it has to be done. So dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. If you see the structure, this kama and artha and kama, these two are sandwiched between this dharma and moksha. Dharma on one side and moksha on the other. Thereby, it means that you have to pursue, you and I, we all have to pursue the artha and kama in the framework of dharma, so that our conduct remains pure, and then we become entitled to get on to that jnana nishtha, as Gita, as Lord Krishna calls it in the Gita. So we will be entitled to sit in that jnana class only when we perform this and when we do this trivarga, this dharma, artha, and kama. When they are done in the framework of dharma only, then only we will become entitled or eligible to be in that jnana nishtha class. So that is what is the overall structure. So we find in this Subhashita-Trisati the same structure. Why is it so? Because when I was a student earlier, long ago, when I started reading this Bhartrihari Subhashita, when I was a young man, I was also reading this, Sringara-Shatakam and all those things. When I was reading this Niti-Shataka, Sringara-Shataka and Vairagya-Shataka, I did not get that idea earlier that these Purusharthas are conveyed here. But after studying Gita, then I realized that in the Gita, what does Lord Krishna say? Lord Krishna talks about the Rajarshi. This is a very unique concept in our Indian tradition, the concept of Rajarshi. In the 4th chapter of Gita, he says, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. This particular yoga, all the kings, all the philosopher-kings, they knew. That is what he says. And what is this Rajarshi? Rajarshi, it is something, it was a living tradition in India. Rajarshi is, if we read the Gita, Bhashyam and all that, and also if we see books like Mahabharata and Bhagavatam, we find so many Rajarshis, lot many Rajarshis like Harishchandra, Nimi, Shipi Chakravarti, and so many, Janaka, Ashwapati, particularly they're quoted, Janaka, Ashwapati and others. And if we see the Upanishads, we see lot many kings to whom various sages were going to the kings in order to learn Brahma Vidya. There were Ashwapati and other Kshatriyas who were the teachers of Brahma Vidya to the sages who happened to be Brahmins. So that is what we find. So Rajarshi is a unique tradition, unique concept, unique thing in the Indian tradition. Not only in the Gita, we also find that word in the Arthashastra of Kautilya, in the very opening chapters, chapter 3-2. So he talks about what is called a Rajarshi Vrittam. Vrittam is character. Raja, how his conduct, his lifestyle. Vrittam is actually lifestyle. Lifestyle is a better word. So this Rajarshi lifestyle, in the Arthashastra also, our Chanakya or otherwise Kautilya, he also describes. So this is something which is unique. And in recorded history too, that when we talk about Harishchandra, Shibi, Nimi, etc., that is not a recorded history. But in the recorded history also, if we see, we find lot many kings who are highly learned, lot many kings who are great poets, who are great writers, and then highly learned people. Why is it so? Because in the syllabus of kings, in our tradition, it so happens that the syllabus of kings includes Vedic literature. Anvikshaki, Trayi, Varta, Dandanitischa, Shashwati. These four are the essential subjects, in addition to all other auxiliary subjects and arts, fine arts, music, dance, etc., etc. Essential thing, and also martial arts, something different. But academic syllabus, what was it? Anvikshaki, that is logic. A person was supposed to get trained in logic so that he knows what is somebody comes and puts forth some argument, puts forth some statement. He has to know whether what he is speaking is logical or not. Then again, Trayi, it referred to the three Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, and Samaveda. Of course, Atharvana Veda, we know that it is supposed to have been compiled later from the same existing mantras only, not any new mantras. So these three Vedas, Trayi, Anvikshaki, Trayi, Varta. Varta is economics and commerce, trade, commerce, building up of wealth for the state. So that is Varta. And again, Dandaniti. Dandaniti is jurisprudence, both criminal jurisprudence and also civil jurisprudence. So that is these four subjects, they were essential for kings. So as students of Vedas, as student of other Vedic literature and all that, the kings were also, they were philosophers. Many of the kings, they were philosophers. We see Bhartrihari like that. And we also listen about, hear about various scholarly kings like Bhoja Raja. Bhoja Raja may not have been a philosopher, but he was a very great king, a very great and highly learned person. So Bhartrihari is one person in the tradition of those Rajarshis. So why I am saying this is that he is highly connected to our Indica moksha. He is highly connected. He is in the tradition of Rajarshis, and he is unconsciously he is having that concept of Dharma, Artha, Kama, and moksha in this Subhashita-Trisati. And who is this Bhartrihari? We are not very sure. We are not very sure whether the writer of Vakyapadiya is the same as the writer of the Subhashita-Trisati. We know that there is another great text called Vakyapadiya, the philosophy of language. Vakyapadiya is the philosophy of language, and that is being studied, particularly in the West. Not I didn't see so much in India, but I was surprised to see some people who have studied Vakyapadiya for about 10 years, 15 years, etc. in America. I met those people also. And if we read the Vakyapadiya, it is, rather highly terse thing. So whether the writer of Vakyapadiya is the same person as the writer of Subhashita-Trisati, we do not know. But I tend to agree that he is the same person. And that is a highly regarded text. Then our idea now, as Sridhar said, is to study these three Shatakams, devoting 2 sessions to each Shatakam. And I am following one, there may be several editions of Bhartrihari Subhashitas. Some people may be having some book also, I do not know. But then I am following the Southern edition, Southern Recension, it is called Southern Recension. There are, for various old texts, we have got Southern Recension, Eastern Recension, Northern Recension, etc. So I am following the Southern Recension. And of course, one critical edition supposed to be by the famous writer, Koshambi. Koshambi is another famous person, of course, left intellectual. So his edition of Subhashita-Trisati is said to be, it is a highly acclaimed edition, but somehow I couldn't get it. I didn't see that. I have only seen the Southern edition along with the Sanskrit commentary by one gentleman called he too also is an old scholar called Ramachandra Budhendra. So his Sanskrit commentary. So I have that book. Of course, the same thing is available on the archive.org also. On the archive, in the archive.org, we find the same commentary, that is Ramachandra's commentary on Subhashita-Trisati. So this incidentally, Koshambi seems to have dedicated his edition to Marx, Lenin, and Engels. We do not know why. Marx, Lenin, and Engels, under the assumption or presumption that Bhartrihari was also a sort of distressed person of proletariat leanings, maybe. So something like that. So that is the reason. But then I feel that it is a sort of unconscious tribute paid by Koshambi to the Vedic tradition. That is, Vedanta philosophy is very close to, is so egalitarian. so egalitarian that even the communists, they feel at home. If the communists really read Vedanta, they will feel at home. Lot of literature, which is as egalitarian or more egalitarian than the communism, but without any trace of violence or without any trace of any, say, cruelty or violence. But anyway, he seems to have paid an unconscious tribute. So leaving that, now we'll come to the text as such. And as I said, like a person who is steeped in the Vedantic tradition, Bhartrihari is dealing with these three subjects, that is, these four subjects, that is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. And in the first Shataka, we see that he is covering these two, that is Niti-Shataka. He is covering these two Purusharthas, that is Dharma and Artha. And in the second Shataka, that is Sringara-Shatakam, he is covering Kama. Why is he covering Kama? Because Kama is something which cannot be totally pushed under the carpet. Kama is something which is the graveyard for lot many great sages. So Kama is something which has to be handled, understood properly. And if you see Ramayana and Mahabharata, our traditional scholars, what do they say? Traditional scholars, they say that Ramayana analyzes Kama, the relationship between man and woman, in various facets. So many facets we see that in Ramayana, the man-woman relationship is analyzed. Similarly, in Mahabharata, Krodha is analyzed. Kama and Krodha are analyzed in Ramayana and Mahabharata, respectively. In Mahabharata, Krodha, that is anger, and anger, and then Kama, of course, anger is again the result of Kama only, but this is a different type of Kama, Rajya Kanksha, Lobha. That is what we find here. So this Kama has to be understood. And we also remember Gita's line, Lord Krishna's line in the Gita, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatashabha, he says in the 10th chapter, if you see, that is Vibhuti Yoga. So he says, Dharma aviruddha Kama, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamosmi bharatashabha, hey Bharatashabha, I am that Kama manifesting in all the living beings. And that Kama, which is in accordance with the Dharma, which does not violate Dharma. So that particular Kama is my own Rupam, my own Swarupa. So that is what Lord Krishna says in that Gita. So we have to see how Bhartrihari handles it also. Bhartrihari, there may be some slokas which may be titillating and all that. But then why does he do that? He tells us as to how to put a check to that. He tells us how very, very great people were also hijacked by Kama, and how we have to handle that Kama. Then again, Vairagya Shataka. We know that Vairagya Shataka, Vairagya means dispassion. How a person has to develop this dispassion. Dispassion comes only by Viveka. Unless we do Viveka, Viveka is analyzing a particular subject. Viveka is actually examining, analysis. That is Viveka. Vichir prathak bhave. It comes from the root, Sanskrit root called Vichir prathak bhave. That is, you have to distinguish. You have to find out what is right and what is wrong, what is the value of each thing. So that is what is Viveka. So Viveka leads to Vairagya. So that is what we find in the Vairagya Shataka. So now let us now get into the text. So if we see the text, the invocation is fantastic. It is actually an invocation to the formless reality, as we call it. We define, in the Vedanta tradition, we define Brahma as Taittiriya Upanishad puts it, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Satyam is that existence which cannot be negated at any point of time in past, present, and future. That is what is called Satyam. Satyam Jnanam. Jnanam is consciousness, a pure consciousness. Why do we call pure consciousness? We also have knowledge, but then our knowledge is knowledge of things. But then that knowledge which we associate with the Brahman it is not knowledge of what is in my mind and what is in your mind, but it is pure consciousness which is enlivening all our brains, all our antakarana, all our minds. So that consciousness, pure consciousness, and also anantam, that is infinite. That is what precisely Bhartrihari says. Dikkaladhyanavacchinnananta chinmatramurtaye. Very long line. Dikkaladhyanavacchinnananta chinmatramurtaye. Swanubhutyekamanaaya Namashantaya Tejase, he says. Dik Kala Adi Anavachana, that is something which is unbound consciousness. That unbound consciousness which is enlivening all of us, which is enlivening all the minds and the limbs and all the bodies of all the beings. So I bow to that. Namashantaya Tejase. So I bow to that. We'll not go deeper into that because that will be a discussion on philosophy. So now we come to the Subhashitas as such. If we come to Subhashita as such, the Trishati, now the first Shataka we have to see. The first Shataka we will try to cover maybe half of it today and maybe half of it tomorrow. And depending on the time, because I have to read out some slokas also, what I propose to do is, there are, in the Niti-Shataka, there are 10 sections, each section dealing with a particular type of persons or a particular issue. Initial sections, they all deal with particular type of people. And the last couple of sections, they deal with what is karma and what is called destiny. Karma and daivam. Daivam is destiny. So those two things. But broadly, it deals with the different types of people. We find different types of people in the society and how they behave, how they conduct themselves. That is what we see here. Niti again, Niti does not mean moral instruction alone. Moral instruction, we always say moral, Niti means morality. That's a very minor meaning. Niti is a very, very broad word in Sanskrit. Niti means a policy, a strategy. For example, Rajaniti, suppose I say Rajaniti, that is the king's policy. What is the policy which a king adopts? And something else, Danda Niti. What is the Niti? What is the jurisprudence? So like that, the word Niti has a broad meaning, which we can take it as human conduct, general examination of human conduct, and how various people behave, their lifestyles, and also the king's behavior also is noted here. King's policy, how a king conducts himself. So all those things are covered here. So Niti, we have to take a broader meaning, that is policy. Then again, for example, our strategy, all these things we have to take. Then we will come to the first type of people. The first type of people, ironically, Bhartrihari is talking about actually highly opinionated people who refuse, who are obstinate, opinionated, and then who refuse to listen to others. So that is where he starts, because he is just thinking whether I have to write or not. If at all I write, who will read? And are the people receptive? So he says, all this talk about Subhashita and whatnot, it may be also a waste. Why? Because he says, the very first shloka says, Bodharo matsaragrastaha, prabhavas mayadushitaha, abodhopahataschanye jirnam ange subhashitam. So you just listen to these shlokas. If you know Sanskrit, you will enjoy. Even if you do not know, don't bother. You just relax and enjoy. Relax and see the witty statements of Bhartrihari. Very witty statements. Actually, these are all, it is called good poetry only. Though it is called didactic poetry, it is all good poetry also. Didactic poetry also can be a good poetry. So here we find Bodharo, he analyzes what is the type of audience I am having. Bodhara, those who actually know, those who are highly learned, they are so jealous, they don't want to tell anyone, they don't want to guide others. They don't want to guide others for a successful living. Niti, as I said, it is not morality. If it were to be morality, every fellow will tell every other person. It is strategy, how a person has to, a policy, how a person has to train. It is somewhat like management. So, Bodharaha, the people who know, Matsaragrastaha, they are jealous. Prabhavahas Mayadushitaha, if you want to go and tell the chief minister or prime minister, they are so totally inaccessible, and sometimes they are Smayadushitaha. They are so proud, they are so arrogant, they are steeped in arrogance, Smayadushitaha. Abodhopahatascha anye. Most other people are ignorant. Many other people are so ignorant. That is why he says, Jirnam ange subhashitam. My subhashitam, whatever I have to speak, it is actually absorbed in me, it got digested in me only. I couldn't speak. So, but somehow he comes out and again says, in spite of all that, now that I have started, I have to tell, but I still feel inhibited by all these foolish people who are so opinionated and then who are so obstinate. So, what type of people are they? Then in the next shloka, I'll read a few sample shlokas from each section. As I said, there are 10 sections. Today I will try to cover about 5 sections. From each section, taking out 2 or 3 shlokas and trying to read out and explain. So here, the second shloka is again a very interesting shloka. He says, Ajnaha sukham aradhya sukhataram aradhyate visheshajna. So you see, if you see a wise person or a knowledgeable person, no, first he talks about an ignorant person. Ajnaha sukham aradhya. That is a totally ignorant person. So you have to go and tell him, you have to convince him, you have to guide him. So such person can be guided because he is a man with an open mind. So he can be guided easily. And a person who knows well, he can also be told. And then if there is anything else, there can be an exchange of ideas. So he can also be told. But somebody who is a jnana lava durvidagdham, brahmavi naram naranjayati. Jnana lava durvidagdha. A person who is having a sort of half-baked knowledge. A person who is having that half-baked knowledge and bubbling with that knowledge, and then fiery, highly fiery. Durvidagdha is highly fiery with that knowledge. So even a creator Brahma, even if the four-headed Brahma comes down and then if he wants to teach, four-headed Brahma who revealed the Vedas, so even if that gentleman were to come, he would not be able to convince these fools. So that is how he starts. And then say a few shlokas, a few verses go like that. And then what is the way? Then what is the way to handle these people? And the one way he says is that if at all we are in that position, because sometimes we may also be in that position. So Bhartrihari says, he assumes himself to be in that position, and he says, Yada kinchignoham gajaiva madandhas samabhavam tada sarvagnyosmit yabhavad avaliptam manaha. This is the 7th shloka in the first section. The first Shataka, let me say. Because in the first Shataka, the entire all the numbers are serially, they're all the shlokas are serially numbered. Yada kinchignoham gajaiva madandhas samabhavam tada sarvagnyosmit yabhavad avaliptam mama manaha. That is, when I was having very little knowledge, kinchit gnya, that is very little person of little knowledge. Then gajaiva, like a proud elephant, I was just strutting around. Like a proud elephant, I was just showing, speaking everywhere and then talking all around. Tada sarvagnyosmiti. I was thinking that I knew all. I have seen people who say that what I do not know is not worth knowing. I've seen very, very big people saying, what I do not know is not worth knowing. So there are people like that. So, sarvagnyosmiti, avaliptam. Avalipta is something which is arrogant. Avalepa is arrogance. Avaliptam is arrogant. My mind became very arrogant. Then, yada kinchit buddhajana sakashad avagatam tada murkhosmiti jwaraiva madho me vyapagataha. So, when I spent some time in the company of wise people, yada kinchit buddhajana sakashat. Buddhajana sakashat means when I go to a teacher, when I just listen to him, then I find my own ignorance. Our ignorance can only be known when we interact with some bigger people. And the bigger people who are also kind to us, who are also our teachers. Till that time, as long as you are speaking with somebody who doesn't know, then you feel you are sarvagnya. Then when I go to my teacher and then when I listen to him, every time I find that, oh, yeah, this I do not know. So the limits of our ignorance, our knowledge, or rather we become aware of our ignorance. So that is what he says. So this is one section. One section I have left out lot many shlokas, but this is how the Murkha has to cure himself. If at all he is having some small inclination by good luck, he gets some idea, he has to cure himself by this. Now the second section is about Vidvat Paddhati. It is called Vidvat. Vidvat Paddhati means learned person, really truly learned persons. And what type of people are they? These are the people who are really whose speech is refined by the study of the Shastras. Shastropaskrita Shabda Sundara Giraha. Shastropaskrita Shabda Sundara Giraha Shishya Pradeyagamaha. Some people they can read the shlokas in a very mellifluous manner, but I am reading in a rather prosaic way. Shastropaskrita Shabda Sundara Giraha. Shastra Upaskruta. That is their words. Giraha means Giraha, the people who have that voice, speech. Their speech or words, they are imbued by that wisdom which is acquired from the study of Shastras. Then Shishya Pradeyagama, those who are competent to teach their students, their Shishyas. And if such people are there in society unrecognized, then it is the fault of the bosses. It is the fault of, suppose so many such people are there unrecognized. It is the fault of the system. Now we have to talk about system, because there is no one person who is responsible. In olden days, probably, Bhartrihari could say the king is to be blamed. If in his kingdom such people are there, the king has to be blamed. Now we do not know whether we can directly blame the chief minister or prime minister, whoever it is. Maybe they are also supposed to know who are the people. But then he says that Vikhyata Kavayo Vasanti Yasya Vishaye Prabhor Nirdhana Yasya Prabhor Nirdhana. If such people, they are not honored well, if they are living in some totally unrecognized condition, such in that case, the fault is that of the kings only and not that of the scholars. And he gives the example of precious diamonds. If a precious diamond is not recognized properly by whoever is that person who is valuing the gem or the diamond, then it is the fault, it is the foolishness of that person, the diamond handler. It is the foolishness of that person, and it is not the fault of the diamond. The diamond always has its own merit, its own strength. So that is how he says. That means it is a sort of indication to the scholars that they need not hanker for, or they need not be rather disheartened if they are not recognized. A really good scholar, if he is not recognized, he doesn't feel disheartened. He just leaves it like that, and then he doesn't bother also. So that is what he indicates here. Then again, knowledge, you see, is a great wealth. This from Shloka 12 to 15, Shlokas 12 to 15, they tell about how knowledge is a very great wealth. And these are verses which are very, very familiar, which we have studied from our school days or college days. Harturyati nagocharam kimapi sham pushnati. Harturyati nagocharam kimapi sham pushnati yat sarvada pyartibhyah pratipadyamana manisham prapnoti vruddhim param. Kalpanteshvapi na prayati nidhanam vidyakhyam antardhanam. Goes on like that. So what does it say? Hartuhu yati na gocharam. If a robber comes and wants to steal, it doesn't come. All other wealth, it can be stolen. Any type of wealth, all other types of wealth, it can be stolen, except this particular wealth. Hartuhu yati na gocharam. Kimapi sham pushnat. Kimapi means something, some inexplicable joy. Suppose I read a book and I feel happy. I know something. That joy is something which is inexplicable. The joy of understanding, as people say, the joy of understanding is something inexplicable. Kimapi sham is sukham, pushnati. It increases your happiness. First of all, it increases your happiness. Then, and you can always give to people. You can always give to people, and as you give, it increases. If you don't give, only it decreases. As you start giving, it increases. Then kalpanteshvapina prayati nidhanam. Even in any other kalpa, in any other cycle of creation, it doesn't die, because knowledge is same. Knowledge being same, it cannot die. The same knowledge, the same consciousness will work on the minds, and then the same knowledge has to come, has to reappear in another creation also. Kalpanteshvapi, even in another kalpa, it doesn't die. Then this is antardhanam. It is something which is inside. And he tells the rulers, hey and Rupaha, oh my dear kings, be careful with them, don't insult them, be careful with them, and don't be proud, don't be arrogant with them, be humble to them. Yesham tan pratimana ujjatan Rupaha. Oh Rupaha, you don't feel arrogant in front of them. So that is what he says. And this is when you say Harturiya Tinagocharam, then again Vidya is something which is a very hidden wealth and whatnot, right up to 15th. He says, Keyurana Goshayanti Purusham, etc. Prachanna Guptam Dhanam. In the next shloka, in another shloka, 16th shloka, he says, Vidyanama Narasya Rupam Adhikam Prachanna Guptam Dhanam. It is hidden wealth. when I read these things, in fact, if we really go, it is not irrelevant. It may not be irrelevant to talk about how our religion, our tradition itself got preserved in the conquest from outside. In fact, Ambedkar notes it in one book, The Revolution and Counter-Revolution in India. In that, there is a chapter, if I remember, it's chapter number 5 or 4. So it is about the decline and fall of Buddhism in India. And many left-wing intellectuals and all our progressive intellectuals, they say, oh, Ramanujacharya and Shankaracharya, they killed all these Buddhists, etc., etc. But Ambedkar doesn't say that. And even Western scholars who have done some research, they do not say that. They have directly attributed it to the outside conquest, the people who destroyed our Nalanda University, the people who destroyed all our Takshashila and all other universities. So these are the people, when they came, they found that the Hindu leaders, Sanatana Dharma, let us say, at that time Hindu word was there, or we do not know, say Sanatana Dharma people, they were spread out everywhere. And these are the people who learned all the Vedas by heart. In contrast, all the Buddhists, they were living in their viharas, Buddhist viharas. Thousands of people, Buddhists, they were in viharas. They built up huge libraries. Buddhists were very, very great scholars. And even their existing literature is so huge. So their huge libraries, their viharas, and then all the people were available like sitting ducks. When these people from outside came and then they wanted to establish their religion, they said, okay, if one book is there, that is enough, all other books we destroy. So they destroyed and they killed all those people. And many people went to Egypt. So it is written, it is a recorded thing in history. Many people ran to Egypt. So, I'm sorry, Tibet ran away. Sorry, certainly I don't know why Egypt came. Tibet, many people ran away to Tibet. So Ambedkar notes it. And he says, these people, Hindu people, they are not capable of such thing. And why? The reason why Hinduism got preserved is because of the Hinduism survived because of the peculiar nature of the priestly class. These are exactly the same words he uses. The peculiar nature of the priestly class. And what is this peculiar nature? They learned all the books by heart. And outwardly, he looks to be a very, very ordinary, simple person. And if you just touch him, he can repeat all the Vedas, he can repeat all the Shastras, including the Nyaya, Vaisheshika, all other Shastras, Vyakarana. Of course, even today we find lot many scholars who know the whole Vyakarana by heart and whole Nyaya, so that is Tarka Shastra by heart. There are so many people, even today. Then you think of olden days. So Ambedkar writes it, and which is highly notable here. Arthuriyatina gocharam. This is something which is not known to physically known to the enemy. Then how does it? Then again we come to the next thing. How does a wise person handle a variety of people? An intelligent man. How does he handle? A variety of people. We come across a variety of people. How do we handle? So he says, Dakshinyam Swajane. I have come to 18th shloka. I have skipped many other shlokas. Dakshinyam Swajane Daya Parijane Shathyam Sada Durjane Pritis Sadhujane Nayon Rupajane. So depending on the type, depending on the people who is handling, his style changes. Dakshinyam Swajane. Suppose my own family people, they just come and they want something. I have to be slightly obliging. I should not always say no. Sometimes we have to say no, but quite often we have to be obliging. That is what I find a very interesting shloka in the Bhagavatam also. That is, if family members, they ask something, of course, not out of the way, not give a job to my cousin or something like that. But in the house, suppose they say, okay, we have to go out and then let us enjoy, let us go to a movie or let us go to a hotel or something. Small things we have to oblige. So that is Dakshinyam Swajane. Daya Parijane. You have to be kind towards your people. He is kind. He doesn't say you have to be kind. He only says this is how the wise people they function. That is what he says. Shathyam Sada Durjane. Shathyam. If a bad person is there, if other person is a crook, you should also be slightly crook. He is also slightly crooked. Shathyam Sada Durjane. Pritis Sadhujane. And when you are saying encountering some saintly people, you have to have total love for them, love and affection, regard for them. Then Nayon Rupajane. And when you are meeting the kings or politicians, you have to be absolutely Naya. Naya actually means the political, what can we say? policy. Not that you have to adopt his political policy, etc. You have to be diplomatic. You have to say, you have to be slightly diplomatic. That is proper. Nayon Rupajane. Then Vidvajanesha Arjavam. Yeah, learned people. When you are handling with learned people, then you have to be totally straightforward with them. We should not try to impose, we should not try to project ourselves that we are the biggest fellows, etc. But then we have to be straightforward because they are highly learned people and then they know. So, Vidvajanesha Arjavam. Arjavam means Ruju Swabhava. Ruju means straight. Then Shauryam Chatrujane. And in front of enemy, you have to be valorous. Somebody comes to fight, you have to fight. Then Shama Gurujane. If elderly people make some mistake by chance, we have to be totally Shama. Shama is totally tolerant about it. Then Kantajane Dhrashtata. This is again interesting. Kantajane, while handling women, dealing with women, you have to be a flamboyant, we can say. Dhrashtata. Dhrashtata is a very strange, is a good word in Sanskrit. It means a flamboyant nature. Somebody is dhrashta. Dhrashta means not dushta. Dushta is bad person. Dhrashta. Dhrashta is flamboyant, aggressive, very assertive. You see Bond movies. An example which directly comes to my mind is some old Bond, some Sean Connery type of person. Kantajane Dhrashtata. Yeshaivam Purusha Kalasu Kushala Teshveva Lokasthiti. So these are the people, wise people. These are the people who handle very successful people. He's not talking about wise people, he's talking about highly successful people. Highly successful people, that is how these people they handle various types of persons whom they encounter. So then again, then when we come, then knowledge is ever hidden, wealth and etc. It's okay. Then again we say it is about association with the wise persons. Association with the wise persons. What does it do? It satsangatvam. We hear about satsangatvam. Satsangatve nisangatvam, as Shankaracharya says. So here also he says satsangatvam is something which is jadyam dhiyo harati sinchati vachi satyam manonnatim dishati papam apakaroti. So the meaning is that like this. Association with good people, it drives away all jadyam. Jadyam means that inertness of mind. All that inertness of mind is driven away in the association of good people. Then again, all these afflictions of mind, as we can say, and it also purifies our speech. Sinchati vachi satyam. Our speech becomes more and more pure and straightforward. And it also leads us to fame. It also takes us on the path of fame. A person attains fame. Dikshu tanoti kirtim. Person becomes famous. Satsangati kim kathaya kim nakaroti pumsam. Satsangati is one thing which actually it leads a person to the path of achievement. Achievement in a very, very positive sense. Not only in the acquisitive sense, but in a very positive sense. Then now we come to the third section. Third section is third type of people, let us say. The third type of people, they are the people who are self-respecting, highly self-respecting people. What do? It is called Mana Shaurya Paddhati. Mana is, Manam is also an interesting word. Manam, what is Manam? The Sanskrit root Ma means to measure. When I meet somebody, I measure whether he comes up to my level or not. And that is called Manam. You see, Abhimanam. Abhimana is another word. Mana is that measuring. In fact, a meter, matra, all the matra, meter, all these things, they are cognate words. So, Mana Shaurya. So, Abhimanam, their self-respect. And they are highly, self-respecting people. How do they behave? So, that is what the next section says. And these are the people. The example is the first, the comparison or upama, which Bhartrihari can think of, is that of a lion. We compare a bold man to a lion only, even in our literature or probably in any other literature. And as Shakespeare says, honor in one eye and death in the other, he says. So that is, I think, in Julius Caesar, honor in one eye and death in the other, Brutus says. So like that, these are the people. They do not see the consequences. They want to uphold their honor. So what is that? Shut shamopi jara krushopi. Shithila prayopi kashtam dasham apannopi vipanna didhitirapi praneshu nasyatsvapi. It goes on like that. Shutsamopi jara krushopi shithila prayopi nashtam kashtam dasham apannopi. Whatever may be its status, whatever may be the distressed status, however famished it may be, a lion, he doesn't go for a lowly food. Lion wants to hunt. Matte vendra vibhinna kumbha pishita grasaika baddha spruha. But Bhartrihari says, Matte vendra vibhinna kumbha pishita grasaika baddha spruha. You see the words to describe that huge elephant. So when the lion wants to hunt that elephant's bigness, that greatness, bigness, or that its bigness also has to be shown. So that is Matteva, that a proud elephant. The lion, however famished it may be, however, in whatever bad condition it may be, it wants to hunt that thing, and then it wants to get on to the top of it and then break that soft portion of that elephant. It is called Kumbhasthala. That Kumbhasthala, that soft portion which wants, probably it may be, we do not know whether it, what exactly is that portion. It is called Kumbhasthala. That is the softest portion where some flesh is there, and chastiest flesh. So the lion wants to hunt it, and it will not go for any sort of lowly food which is left over by some other animals, etc. Then again, the next sloka also, it tells it in comparison with a sort of fox, an ordinary fox. What does it do? Even some leftover meals it is there somewhere, some leftover meat somewhere it is there. So the fox goes and eats it. Then there is a comparison with the lion again. Swalpasnayu vasavase kamalinam nirmamsamapyasti goho. So this is a dog, a lowly dog, Shwa labdhva paritoshamedi. Shwa, a lowly dog. It gets some sort of bone somewhere, and then almost fleshless bone, but still it bites that bone, and then it struggles with that bone. But then Simha, a lion, what does it do? Even if a lowly animal comes near it, a fox or some other lowly animal comes near it, it doesn't bother. It wants to hunt. It wants to hunt a bigger animal. Sarvaha kruchragatopi vanchati janas satvanurupam phalam. So Satvanurupam phalam, Sattva Anurupam, in accordance with one's own strength, he is not a person who will sell himself for a few dollars or something. So he would not agree for a lesser value. He will achieve what he will achieve, or he will demand what is due to him. So he doesn't behave in a lowly fashion. Then again, another verse gives the example of an elephant and contrasts itself to a lowly dog. How does an elephant eat? The driver, called a mahout of an elephant, what does he do? He brings a lot of grass and then slowly puts into the mouth of that elephant, slowly coaxes it to eat. But then a dog, how does a dog eat? Some dog, you throw the food somewhere and then it eats, and then it wags its tail, and then it taps the ground, and then do all those things. So he says, Shwa Langula Chalanam, Adhash Charanavaghatam, Langula Chalanam. The dog, he comes and wags the tail, and then Charanavaghatam, it taps the ground with its legs. Bhumau Nipatya Vadanodar Darshanancha. It falls on the ground, and then it rolls on the ground, and then shows its belly. Then again, Shwa Pindatasya Kurute. Shwa, a dog, does all that thing to the person who gives food. But Gajapunga Vastu, an elephant, how does it eat? Elephant, only when it is coaxed, persuaded, only then it eats. So, Mana Shaurya, that is a highly self-respecting person, is one who behaves like that. Then again, one more sloka from this section. He says, Parivartini Samsaga, Kusumas Tabakasyeva. So it shows how a person of honor does not brook an insult. And one more, no, there are only two options for a manasvi. Manasvi is again a person who is having that mind. Manasvi is one who has mind. Tapasvi, one who has tapas, something like that. But manasvi means one who has a strong mind, one who is a self-respecting person. Manasvi, Manasvini. Sometimes we find names also nowadays. Many people, some girls, they have this name also, Manasvini or Manasvi for a man. So Kusumas Tabakasyeva, Dvayi Vruttir Manasvinaha. Murdhniva sarvalokasya shiryate vanayeva. So he says, kusumastabakasyeva. You see, like a flower, a bunch of flowers. Stabaka. Stabaka, probably it is a cognate word, we cognate with what we call bouquet of flowers. Stabaka could be cognate with a bouquet. Stabaka is a bunch of flowers. Kusumastabaka. Then a self-respecting person, either he wants to be on the head of the people, or he will flourish in a jungle. If you don't pluck flowers, what is their fate? They are happily there on the tree. They are happily there on the tree. But if at all they are brought, they have to be on the head of some god, or maybe on the head of a person. In olden days, of both men and women, they used to wear flowers. They used to have long hair, and then they used to wear flowers, put flowers also. So kusumas tabakasyeva dvai vrutihi. There are only two ways. What is the murdhniva sarvalokasya, on the head of all the people? That means very honorably received, very honorably placed. And shiryate vanayeva, or you languish in the forest. Not exactly languish also. You just be in the forest, unmindful of all these things. So that is how this section is there. And maybe one more sloka from this section. This section, sloka number 29, it says, how a person of honor does not brook any insult. A person of honor does not tolerate any small insult. And the comparison is a particular stone called Inakantamani. Ina is a Surya. Suryakantamani. Suryakanta stone. Mani does not mean actually a gem, but it is a particular stone. And how does it react to sun's rays? When sun's rays fall on it, it just becomes so reddish and bright, as though a person in anger. And an angry person becomes red. So like that, this stone becomes red. That is what he says. Yad achetanopi padais prushtaha prajvalati savituhu inakantaha. Inakantaha is that stone. Probably a gemstone also. When sun's rays fall on it, sun's rays are compared to the feet of the sun. You are touched by the foot. Suppose somebody touches us by the foot, you feel rather insulted. So similarly, sun's feet, they are the rays. So those things, they are falling on, those feet are falling on this stone, and the stone is reacting with such violence. That is how the poet, that utpreksha, that metaphor, that utpreksha is like that. He is visualizing it as the anger of that stone. Tat tejasvi purushaha parakruta nikrutim katham sahate. So he is a man of honor. He burns bright when dishonored by others. So that is how he says. Then again, we come to the fourth section. I think we have some time. Yeah, it is around nearly 12. So we'll have some more time. And then, okay, this fourth section. Fourth section is about what is called Artha Paddhati. Artha, that is the importance of wealth. And we usually, Indians, we are misunderstood in this particular aspect. People say that, oh, this Indian growth of rate or Hindu growth of rate, etc. Many people have an impression that our texts, they do not encourage people to earn wealth. It is true partly because our texts like Bhagavatam, if you take, Bhagavatam is not intended for a person who, who wants to be successful in business. Bhagavatam is intended for a mumukshu. It is intended for a person who wants to slowly develop dispassion and achieve what is called moksha. So if you read texts like Bhagavata, Sutta Samhita, or any other Vedanta text, they are meant for mumukshus. They are not meant for men of action. But for men of action, there are so many other texts like Arthashastra and various other texts, including Gita. Gita also says, yes, you have to achieve what is due to you. Gita is not for a sannyasi. So here, Artha Paddhati. For example, if you see Hitopadesha, the very opening sloka of Hitopadesha is about wealth. You earn wealth, you earn wealth. Ajaramaravat prajnaha, ajaramaravat prajnyo vidyam arthancha sadhayet. That particular book says, I have to acquire money and also knowledge. Vidyam arthancha. Vidya is knowledge. Artham is money. Sadhayet. With what attitude? My attitude of mind should be that I don't have old age. Even when I become 80 or so, I have to study. That is what it says. When I 80 plus, 90 plus also, I should be studying. So Ajara Amaravat. Ajara means that is one who doesn't have an old age. Amara, one who doesn't have death. So with that frame of mind, one has to acquire knowledge and also wealth. Vidyam arthancha sadhaya. But at the same time, Gruhita iva keshena mrutyuna dharmam acharya. You have to be on the path of dharma. You have to do dharma. That means you should be very liberal also. You should be very liberal with money. You should be very liberal with vidya. How? Gruhita iva keshena mrutyuna keshena gruhita iva. As though that god of death, he has caught you by the tuft of the hair. In olden days, our people used to have some shikha. So the easiest way to catch a person is to catch the shikha. So we see that very easily you can catch a shikha and the man is caught. So mrutyuna keshena gruhita, as though that death has caught you by the tuft of your hair. We have to perform dharma. Otherwise, the death is dragging, and people do perform dharma at the time of death when they come, when they are aware of their that final time. Then slowly and slowly they want to distribute something. Okay, this portion I want to give to a temple, this portion I want to give to this, that, etc. They want to do some dharma, at least many people. So, Gruhitaiva Keshena, Dharma Macharya. That is what our philosophy is. So here also, Artha Paddhati, Bhartrihari tells the same thing. Bhartrihari says, yes, Yasyasti Vittam, this is sloka number 32. Yasyasti Vittam Sanarah Kulinaha, Sapanditas Sashrutavan Gunagnya. See, all the virtues, they come to him, they flock around him. A person who has money, yasyasti vittam, a person who, if he has money, sanarah kulinaha, who he is a man of the noble class. Then sapanditaha, he is a scholar. Man with money is a scholar. Sashrutavan, he is a man who is a highly well-read person. Gunagnya, he is a man who knows all virtues. Gunagnya, who knows all the virtues. Saeva vakta, and he is the person who is a vakta. Vakta is orator. Oh, how nicely he talks. He is an orator. And such a darshaniya, the most handsome person, darshaniya, that is highly handsome person. And sarve guna kanchanam ashrayanti. All virtues, they flock around kanchanam. Kanchanam is money. Kanchanam is that money. So that is how it is. Then it says, money has, though money is so important, of course, there are some more slokas which are good. Money is very important, but it has got three ways. What either you have to spend it by way of charity, or you have to enjoy it. There are three ways in which money goes. That is, one is you be charitable and then give to people, or enjoy it, or if you don't do that, it will perish. Danam bhogo nashaha. Tisro gatayo bhavanti vittasya, he says. Danam bhogaha nashaha. One has to give to others. This is giving to others is something which is very, very repeatedly told in all our texts. Dhanam, bhoga is enjoyment. Nasha is if you don't give or if you don't enjoy, then the third option is it will perish. It will perish means it will go to somebody else. It will go to perish, at least in olden days. Now, of course, our money is safe in banks. But in olden days, when these people used to hide money under the ground and they dig some pits and then put money in the ground or hide in some safe place, maybe gold coins, etc. That is how all those treasures. Nowadays also we find some treasure troves, etc. That is because in olden days they didn't have this banking system. So we have to keep that also in mind. So dhanam, one has to yet na dadati, na bhunkte, yan na dadati na bhunkte, tasya trutiya gatir bhavati, trutiya gati. So if you don't give and if you don't enjoy, then it will only perish, it will go to others. Nowadays we can say it will go to others. Then he says, the rulers are exhorted to be very charitable to poor. Here the king, Bhartrihari, what he is saying is, the rulers, they have to be charitable to people, and only then they will become famous. How? Like a diamond when it is cut, when you sharpen the diamond, it will lose some of its mass. It may lose some of its mass, but it will shine. Then again, Samara Vijayi Heti Dalitaha. That is, Manishyanolidha is the first gem, that a diamond which is cut. Then again, Samara Vijay, somebody who is a fighter, a warrior, who gets injured in the battle. He may have injuries, but he is shining with all those injuries. You see, a person who is injured in a battlefield is a person who is an honorable person. Then Madakshino Nagaha. Then again, this Naga is again an elephant. I'll leave out something. Then again, Tanimna Shobhante Galita Vibhavascha Arthishu Naraha. And a young woman also is mentioned here, Suratamrudita Balavanita, a very young lady who is so totally who is exhausted. Suratamrudita, who is exhausted in a love sport, a vigorous love sport. That is what he says. Suratamrudita, so a vigorous love sport. So, but then there is a shobha. In that tiresomeness, there is a shobha. When a warrior is injured, there is a shobha. When the money is cut, there is a shobha. When a warrior is injured, there is some shobha. So like that, a king who also gives away money and maybe becomes poor also, there is a shobha. There is a show. He gets a lot of kirti. So that is how is the comparison with the king. Then again, one more good sloka I will read. If a king has to ensure productivity in the society, the ruler, he has to nurture all sections of the society. So that is what he says in another sloka, which is 37. Rajan dudukshasi yadi kshitidhenu menam tenadya vatsamiva lokamamum pushana. Oh, my dear king, yadi dudukshasi kshitidhenum enam etam. Shiti means earth. Earth is compared to a cow. Of course, in all our literature, earth is compared to a cow. So that go, for the word go also, one of the meanings is cow. For the word go, there are several meanings. One is cow or even bull, and one is the earth. And Veda also is meant by that. Go, Shabdena. Go also means Vedas. Go also means Indriyas. So like that, go, the word go has many meanings in the Vedic literature. So here, Chiti Dhenu, this is a Dhenu. Dhenu is actually a cow with a calf. A cow with a calf is called a Dhenu. An old cow without a calf is not called a Dhenu. Dhenu is something which is actually giving milk to a calf. So that is called a Dhenu. So this Chiti is like a Dhenu. And all the people, various sections of the people, they are like Vatsa. Vatsa means that is they are the calf. And you have to encourage all sections of the people. A king has to encourage all the sections of the people. He has to nourish all the sections of the people. They should not punish, or rather, he should not squeeze any section of the people. So that all the people, when all the people are happy, only then there is some productivity. And the Chiti Dhenu, this cow, will yield better milk. He says, Rajan, O Rajan, Penadya Vatsamiva Lokamamum Pushana. Vatsamiva. Vatsa is a calf. So you nourish this whole, all the people, various sections of the people, like somebody takes care of a calf. It is only then only the earth will give all the expected results. Till that time, earth cannot give all the expected results. That is all people have to be taken care of. Then again, finally, one more verse from the same section. From the same section, this is a very interesting section. Shloka 38, Shloka number 38. Satyanruta cha parusha priyabhashini cha himsra dayalurapi cha arthaparavadanya nityavyaya prachura nityagama cha varanganeva nrupaniti ranekaritihi. Nrupanitihi, the style of a king is like that of a varangana. Varangana is a woman of easy virtue. Of course, there's nothing offensive to women here, at least modern women, because in olden days, prostitution was a recognized social institution that we have to keep in mind. Prostitution was a recognized institution. Even Bertrand Russell has written on, supporting prostitution. He wrote an article. Long ago, I read some articles, skeptical essays. I think there is an article on prostitution also. So like that, it was a recognized institution. So that is why Bhartrihari compares the king to a Varangana. Just like a Varangana is Satya and Rutacha. Sometimes it tells truth, sometimes it doesn't tell truth. Sometimes harsh, Parusha, Priyabhashini. Sometimes she is harsh and sometimes she is so cooing and then very lovely words, loving words. Then Himsra Dayalu Rapicha. Himsra Dayalu, sometimes very cruel. very cruel. Sometimes very kind, dayalu. Then arthapara vadanya, sometimes extracting money, and sometimes very generous with money. Then again, nityavyaya, prachura nitya dhanagamacha. And sometimes she spends money on you. And sometimes, then again, squeezes money. Then varanganeva, rupanitihi anekaritihi. So liberally sometimes giving away, sometimes extorting money, and then sometimes telling truth, and sometimes telling untruth. And what is the niti of a king? Varanganeva. Sometimes depending on the situation, a king changes his posture, a king changes his style. Sometimes he is harsh, sometimes he is kind. The same person to the same person, to the same person also. He may be harsh to at some time, and he may be kind at some time. So that is why seva dharma is supposed to be very, very tough. So the king, we do not know the mood. And of course, he has something in the mind. He has his own logic in the mind. So that is what he says. The king's niti, king's style of functioning is something which is unpredictable, like that of a varangana. Now we come to the fifth section. I think it is now 12. Should we stop here, Nitinji? Around 12:07. Or maybe we'll finish this particular section.
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish, Aravindaji. We have
Okay.
20 minutes. So,
Okay. So this fifth section is called Durjana Paddhati. Durjana, we know, Sajjana, opposite of Sajjana is Durjana. Durjana, all bad people. We have various levels of bad people. Bad people, bad, ugly, uglier, etc. Good, bad, and ugly. You see, among bad people again, there are bad people, there are ugly people also. So all those things all those people are described here. So this is an evil-minded person. So in general, what are they? In general, these are the people. Durjana Paddhati. Yeah, they are. They entertain a sort of motiveless hostility or motiveless malignity, motiveless hatred towards others. Akarunatvam, akarana vigraha. Akarunatvam, lack compassion. Akarana vigraha, motiveless anger against people. Then paradhane parayoshiti cha spruha. They have their eye always on other people's wealth and other people's women. Paradhane parayoshiti. Yosha means woman. And their eye is all on the other women. Then sujana bandhujaneshu asahishnuta. And intolerance. They cannot bear good people around them. They cannot tolerate good people around them. Prakriti siddhamidam hiduratmanam. This is something which is by nature. Their nature is like that. So who are jealous of others and have that motiveless enmity for others, motiveless dislike, not enmity, dislike for others. Then what should a wise person do? A wise person, he has to only avoid such people. Durjana parihartavyo vidyayalam krutopisam. Though such a Durjana is having some education. So many people, they can also be educated crooks. In fact, educated crook can be a more dangerous crook. So, vidyaya alankrutopisan, though he is having all that vidya, he may be having degrees. Manina bhushita sarpaha kima sauna bhayankaraha. In olden days, there was also a belief that that sarpa, particularly the naga, the other, what is that sarpa? The serpent has, what is this, a money or a diamond on its hood. So that belief was there. I have not seen, but this is ubiquitous in our literature. So Manina Bhushita Sarpaha, though a snake is having money on its hood, is it not terrible? Is it not something which has to be avoided? Like you avoid the serpent, you have to avoid this thing also. So that is what it says. A cobra. Cobra has that hood, and on that hood, it is supposed to have one money. I have seen several cobras, but then I have not seen any money. Anyway, now Bhartrihari tells about how the Durjanas, how the bad people, they rate others, how they berate others, they rate others, how they find fault in everything. They cannot see a virtue in the other person. They just cannot see virtue. They can only find faults always. So what do they see? They see, this is shloka number 43. It is a Shardulam, it is a long shloka. It says, Jadyam Hrimati Ganyate Vrata Shushaudambha Shushavukaitavam Jadyam Hrimati Ganyate. Hriman. Hri is again a very good word. Hri Shyate Lakshmi Shapatnyo. We see there is a mantra in Taranarayana. During our prayers, we chant that mantra, Hrishcha, Te Lakshmi, Shapatnyu, Horatre, Parshve, something like that. We read out. So what is Hri? Hri is the inability to do a bad thing. Or just some people are unable to do anything irregular, unable to do anything which is bad, which is unjust, or which is violent, unable to do anything which is any adharma. So that is what is Hri. It is supposed to be one of the daughters of Prajapati, and that Hri is given in marriage to Vishnu. So that is why Vishnu's wives are Hrihi and Srihi. So Hri is that Jugupsita Karmacharana Paramukhatvam. The commentator says, what is Hri? Jugupsita Karmacharana Paramukhatvam. Jugupsita Karma, something which is condemned, some activity which is condemned by people. And this person who is having that Hri, he is Parangmukha, he turns away from that. Parangmukha means turn away. Abhimukha is turning towards. Parangmukha is turning away. He is turning away from all such the Jugupsita Karma, some despicable activities. So he avoids all despicable activities. So what does this man think? Jadyam Hrimati Kanyate. A bad person, he looks at him and then he says, oh, he is a dull person. Oh, he is a dull person. He may be a good person, but good for nothing person. So there are some people who say, oh, he is a good man, but a good for nothing man. So like that, that is Hriman, somebody who is a very, very honest civil servant. And many people will say, oh, he is a good for nothing man. So like that. Jadyam Hrimati Ganyate. Vrata Shuchau Dambhaha. Somebody is performing vratas, somebody is austerities. Vrata is austerities, various austerities. He may be doing some he may be doing some upasana, he may be doing some upavasa, he may be doing many other things. So, he will say, oh, this person is very ostentatious. Vrata Shujau Dambha. Dambha, the meaning for Dambha is Dharma Dhvajitvam, it says. Dharma Dhvajitvam is, I want to proclaim to the whole world that I am a dharmika, I am performing Sandhya Vandanam 3 times a day, or I am performing puja, I am doing this, I am doing that, so I want to proclaim to everybody else. So that is Dharma Dhvajitvam. I want to made it known to everybody. I will also put on my Facebook today, this morning I have done Sandhya Vandanam, this afternoon I have done this puja, and all this, Dharma Dhvajitvam. Then somebody is really austere. So this bad man, he will blame him, he will dub him as Dharma Dhvaji, somebody, oh, he is a very ostentatious fellow. Then again, Shuchavu Kaitavam, somebody who is very honest, very simple and all that. Oh, he's a very pretentious person. Then Shure Nirghronata, Shura, somebody is a very valorous person. Then we call him, the bad person calls him Nirghronata, very unkind, very cruel. Then Munau Vimatita, somebody is silent, somebody very contemplative person, silent. Oh, he's a foolish person, he's a dullard. Dainyam Priyalapini, somebody talks well, suppose he talks well and gently and then in a very affable manner, very friendly manner. Then he will call him a very, very, Dina, somebody who wants to yield to everybody, somebody who is such a, what is the right word is, fawning on others, somebody who is always fawning on others. So that is what he feels. Then Tejasvin Yavaliptata Mukharata Vaktavya Shakti Sthire. So like that, all other virtues, all the virtues in other people, somehow they are blamed by their exact opposite. Whatever virtue is there, the evil person or bad person, he sees the exact opposite of that. Tejasvi, somebody is having Tejaha, very, very highly great Tejas one he is having. And this person says, oh, Avalipta. Avalipta means very arrogant person. Tejasvi is called a very arrogant person. Then Mukharata Vaktavya Shakti Sthire, somebody who is a very great orator. If somebody is an orator, this bad man says, oh, he's a very talkative fellow, he's a chatterbox, very loquacious chatterbox. So that is Mukharata. Mukharata is loquaciousness. Mukharata. Then Tat Konama Guno Bhavetsa Guninam Yodur Janair Nankitaha. Where can you find any virtue which is not tainted by or dubbed by the bad person as something else? So that is another attitude of a bad person. Then we come across, let me read 1 or 2 more slokas. Yeah, 1 more sloka I will read. 48. The 48th sloka is, it goes like this. Arambha Gurvi Kshayini Kramena. Lagvi Pura Vruddhimupaiti Paschat. he is describing, he is talking about friendship. Friendship with bad people and friendship with good people. How can you compare? What can be a good comparison? In the morning, when you stand, the shadow is long. Person's shadow is very long. And as as it becomes noon time, it becomes a shorter and shorter and shorter, and then that almost merges with the person. Then again in the afternoon, slowly and slowly it again expands and expands, and then it goes on. So this friendship with a bad person, he is like that earlier morning friendship, forenoon friendship. And friendship with a good person is like afternoon friendship. So what he says is, Arambha Gurvi Kshayini Kramena. In the beginning, it is so thick and thin, and then it goes on over very thick friends. Kshayini Kramena, over a period of time, it comes down, because a good man, if he is having a friendship with a bad person, then the bad person naturally recognizes that this is not my company. Slowly and slowly, the good man also realizes this is not my cup of tea. So both the people, they realize, and then it slowly and slowly comes down. But then a good person, in the beginning, you may not find that a person is a good person. Slowly, you also, you are a good person, and the other man also has some goodness in him. Slowly and slowly, they find some goodness in each other, and then that friendship grows. Arambha Gurvi Shaini Kramena. Then the good person friendship is Lagvi Pura, Lagvi, very small. It starts in a very small measure. And then Vruddhimupaiti Paschat, it slowly and slowly it grows, it expands. Dinasya Purvardha Parardha Bhinna. It is a forenoon friendship and afternoon friendship. Chayeva Maitri Khala Sajjanana. Khala is a bad person. Khala Naik, we know the film also. Khala is a bad person. Sajjana. The friendship with a Khala or a bad person is like that forenoon shadow. And the friendship with a good person is like that afternoon shadow. So that is how we come to the end of the fifth section. So sixth section to 10th section, we will see tomorrow. Because fifth section to 10th section again, there are some good points. all over the text we find. In fact, I have skipped many slokas. Maybe I have read about 15, 16 slokas. And I cannot do justice to Bhartrihari because I could not explain the poetry, because poetry has to be explained. I have only told the superficial meaning. But if poetry has to be explained, I have to go slightly deeper. Maybe in Sringara-Shatakam, I have to explain poetry also here and there, because otherwise it will be very drab. So here also, I didn't have adequate time, but still we have to cover, I have to give a picture, a broad picture of what is this Niti-Shataka. So we have covered 5 sections today, and 5 more sections will come to cover tomorrow. Nitinji, any interaction?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Aravinda ji. Viewers, if you have any questions, you can just type it out. We have just 5 more, 10 more minutes, and Aravinda ji can take 1 or 2 questions. Aravinda ji, I think one of the questions that people have, I think this is perhaps a more better question for a next session on Sringara, but still I would go ahead and ask. On one hand, we have a very negative view towards karma prevalent in current society, perhaps under the Victorian influences, so to speak. But within the tradition, we see that on one hand, karma is considered as among the Arishad Vargas, and as something that needs to be overcome in the path of spirituality in Vedanta. But karma is also considered as Purushartha. So that is something positive, not in a completely negative sense. So how does Bhartrihari, does he strike a balance? Does he highlight both aspects of it in his work on, Purushartha?
Yes. Yeah. The very word dharma, if we see, dharma is something which cannot go against human nature. Any dharma, shastra, grantha, it may be Manusmriti, Parashara Smriti, any Smriti, it cannot go against human nature. So that is how it has to take into account all the human desires. Man wants money. Man means man including woman. We also want physical relationship with the other person of the other sex. And then again, at the same time, there are certain higher goals. It is not only money and it is not only woman, but there are higher goals also in life. So for the pursuit of higher goals, we should also keep that in mind. And we have to acquire this artha and kama in such a way that they will not become a hindrance, they will not become an obstacle, they will not pollute our mind. Suppose in the process of acquiring money, I have adopted some bad means that has already polluted my mind, and my mind will not be free or open. It will not be conducive to sit in that Vedanta class. Similarly, if my mind is full of lust and all types of bad ideas about people, then I can't sit in a Vedanta class. It is as simple as that. So, a person, while enjoying Artha and Kama in the framework of Dharma, he should also keep in mind the higher human goals. So, that is the reason why the 4 ashramas, they also correspond to the 4 human goals. The first ashrama, Brahmacharya ashrama, a person does only Dharma. There is no Artha and Kama there. Dharma, and straight away he can also go to moksha. From Brahmacharya Deva Virajayat, that also is possible. Then again, okay, all people cannot become saintly. So we have to come into the Grihastha-ashrama. When you come into the Grihastha-ashrama, then again there are certain norms. There are certain norms, and then Swayoshiti Rati is also going to say, and the Rati, whatever Rati is there, is in your own, with your own consort, one wife or husband. It can't be from outside. And that marital loyalty, it has to be there. Then again, artha, acquisition of artha also in the same fashion. Whatever is due to you, whatever is due to us, we have to accept it. So that way, when our minds will be in a proper frame of mind, to go to the next ashrama, that is the Vanaprastha ashrama. And also Sannyas Ashrama for some people. Sannyas Ashrama is not for all people. Sannyas Ashrama, if you know, it was prescribed only for Brahmanas. Sannyas Ashrama was ashrama, Brahmana, only for Brahmana, all the 4 ashramas. For all others, only 3 ashramas. So, because if all people become sannyasis, then the feeding all the people probably will be a problem. Maybe it must have been a social problem also, we do not know. So, Sannyas Ashrama was only for Brahmanas. And when a sannyasi, he was not supposed to stay in a particular place. He was supposed to be a parivrajaka. He was supposed to be just a wandering person, just a wandering monk. And he was supposed to take food anywhere, not only in the house of a Brahmin, in the house of everybody. From all the 4 varnas, he was supposed to take food because he became an Ativarnashrami. He grew beyond it. So these are various stages of man's evolution, in the spiritual path, let us say. So we have to balance this artha and kama naturally. So that is where, while saying that kama, dharma viruddha kama is something which has to be avoided. But dharma aviruddha kama, as Gita says, dharma aviruddha kama is totally acceptable. It is a divine thing. And if you see marriage mantras also, there, even when approaching a man and woman, they approach each other. There are certain mantras. There are certain mantras, and then we are invoking the divinity in us, so that dharma praja praptyartham, we say. Mantras, they also say dharma praja praptyartham. This is in this man-woman meeting is for begetting people who are dharmishta, who are righteous people. So it is not something which is an encounter, a lustful encounter. It is something very joyous, very pleasant, not also a ritualistic encounter, but in a very joyous frame. In a very joyous frame of mind only, it happens, but dharma in mind. So that is how dharma, artha and kama are balanced. If you read our marriage mantras also, they are very interesting.
Thank you, Aravindaji. We have 2 short questions. I will read it out. The one is the question about, does Bhartrihari's Niti-Shataka borrow from Puranas? And the other question is generic, that Dharma is not taught in schools and universities. So if one were to understand more, where should one search? So you can quickly perhaps take.
Yeah, the first question is about
Puranas, whether Niti-Shataka borrows from Puranas.
Yeah, naturally, because the vision is same. In the Vedic literature also, the vision is the Vedas also, and we know that Vedas, they present 2 dharmas. That is, one is pravrutti dharma and the other is nivrutti dharma. Pravrutti dharma is about how a human being has to conduct oneself in society. And nivrutti dharma means, while enjoying all things in human life, one should also have an eye on the higher human goal. So Pravritti Dharma and Nivritti Dharma are mentioned in all the Puranas also. All the, whether it is Bharatam, Bhagavatam and Itihasas like Ramayana and Bharata, or Puranas, like any other Puranas also. There are so many stories where these things are illustrated. All these things are illustrated. And Bhartrihari captures various things. And it is a common knowledge also. It has become a sort of the dharma which is mentioned in the Puranas is something which is a common vision for all the poets. So all these poets, all the ancient poets, they had this vision unconsciously in their mind. If they wanted to tell something, they were having this Dharma Artha Kama Moksha in mind. So this is also one new thing which came to my notice when you asked me to talk about Bhartrihari. Earlier, I never thought about Bhartrihari much, but when you asked me to talk about it, then when I just put my mind on this, I found that you find this Dharma Artha Kama Moksha. That is what is there in these three Shatakas. So, and how to have knowledge of Dharma? There is no other way but to be active on some social media like Indica Moksha, etc. People have to listen to Indica Moksha and things like that. Nowadays, there is no dearth of information. There are so many Swamijis who are talking about Gita, very many Swamijis. I usually recommend Swamis like Sarva Priyananda. There is one Swamiji named Sarva Priyananda. Or there are Swamijis like Chennai, Paramarthananda, who have spoken in English very, very elaborately and exhaustively. In fact, Paramarthananda has taught all the Upanishads, he has taught all the entire Brahma Sutras, he has taught the Gita Bhashya, all the things, they are all available on the net, on Vedanta Hub, vedantahub.org. So like that, there is so much of information nowadays. So it is we should only find some time, allocate some time to these things.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Aravinda ji. I think I might add that those who want to study about Dharma, there are many books also available. For example, there are talks and books of Kanchi Paramacharya,
Yes.
Sri Chandrasekhara-Saraswati ji. There are many books on this culled from the talks of Sringara-Acharyas such as Chandrasekhara Bharati, Abhinav Vidyatirtha Bharati, and Bharati Tirtha Swamiji, and many other books of Gnanananda Bharati. And so many people are there. These are just few that I am aware myself. So the interested can check them out. Once again, Aravinda ji, on the behalf of all our audience and Advaita Academy, I thank you for taking your time for this session. And we look forward to the second part tomorrow. Viewers, if you have not registered for the session yet, so you can register and attend tomorrow's session on Zoom. And follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel without fail. So with this, we come to a conclusion of this session. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha.
Thank you. Thank you.